Wood movement can absolutely destroy great pieces if proper allowances and planning are not made. In this case, we're looking at a perfect example of the power of wood movement. It starts as a crack, progresses to a glue line, and eventually a full failure of a tenon. Either way, many times this can be more complex to fix than to actually build something completely brand new. But in this case, before we talk about new, let's see what we can learn from the original joinery and risk breaking it apart to create a solid fix. There are a lot of issues at play here. The door is massive, heavy, and built from solid alder. The size of the door alone means the joinery, specifically the tenons, need to be big and strong. In this case, there are no tenons, and that is basically a recipe for good old-fashioned failure. Looking further into the door construction, it's pretty easy to tell that the grooves for the panel are not deep enough or wide enough. So looking at this from the big picture, it is time to just simply break this thing apart, and whatever happens, happens. When breaking everything apart, this was the biggest issue. The panel was glued to the bottom rail, so I just snapped it apart and I figured, hey, if I have to make a new one, I make a new one. But fortunately, the break was so clean that a little glue and a little clamping, and we were back in business. I want this door to have a balance of natural-looking patina and a finished piece of furniture. To do this, I'll start with 60 grit sandpaper and apply more downward force than normal to create deeper scratches. Then add a little wormhole detail around the knots to help with its aged feel and give it a little more character. Then I will jump to 180 grit sandpaper and follow with 220 so that all the scratch marks are left behind, but the panel becomes ready for stain. The final steps are to properly size the panel for the grooves by trimming it, and then I'll feather the edges down to a perfect fit with the block plane. I can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes to watch this barn door rebuild with me. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button as new videos are on the way. Rummaging around in the stockpile of finishes, I find exactly what I want. A half can of dark walnut that, after a few minutes of shaking, actually turns out to be pretty nice. I'll brush this on, let it sit for a minute or two, and then immediately wipe it off. Once you wipe the stain off, you're left behind with this dark walnut rich contrast between the knots and the scratch marks and the wormholes and any dents that are on the wood itself. Looks absolutely beautiful. From here, I'm going to put everything back together and focus on recreating this same scratch pattern and faux patina on the rails and the stiles. Once that is done and that final finish goes on, it is going to be an absolutely beautiful barn door. Doors put back together, everything is now very fundamentally sound. We've given enough room for expansion of this internal panel. Kind of doing the math at roughly 1/8 inch per panel. Adding this all up, I've given myself, give or take, about 2 inches in the top and then 3/4 of an inch down here at the bottom. It's a significant amount of swing, so there's plenty of room for this panel now to move around without busting out the rails and the stiles. Now I'll just let it glue up and cure overnight. Tomorrow I'll come back, Might have to do some additional sanding and touch up, and then I'll put first coat of final finish on it. And then I think from there we're going to be looking pretty good. With the final finish on and buffing everything out, I get to stand back now and look at this piece in its entirety. Take a look at the finish, take a look at the patina that I've created, and make sure that everything works together and has consistency and really has that beautiful barn door look before I take it inside and hang it up. Personally, these types of pieces mean the most to me. They are tangible, built from solid wood and touched by hand tools to feather their perfect final fit. The beauty of the joinery is in its strength, hidden behind perfectly fitting cut lumber. Pieces like this bring value to the heart of your home and happiness when you interact with it. I think this is because it is uniquely personal in its character. A one-of-a-kind piece that will live its life in this doorway, showing aging and inviting a touch from anyone that passes by. Those that do get to see a piece like this in person will understand the beauty immediately, appreciating its uniqueness and fine handmade quality. To me, this is as good as it gets.